We were born in the late 1970s and 80s. We are Generation X, Generation Y, sometimes known as the MTV Generation. From the moment of our birth and throughout our early childhood, there were images of terror, angry Arabs, sinister Middle Easterners, at the periphery of our awareness. On magazine covers, newspaper headlines, in the grocery stores, at the checkout line, on coffee tables, in the newsstands, on the TV. Terror, Arabs, terror, Arabs, terror, and Arabs. We didn't think about it much. We were kids. Our parents didn't think about it either. The government was handling it and they were busy working. We paid no attention to the news reports of oil embargoes, hijackings, hostage crises, guerrilla warfare, bombings, warfare, warfare, warfare. These were all things that happened in action movies, starring Chuck Norris, Sylvester Stallone, Charles Bronson, Bruce Willis. It wasn't real. It didn't touch us. We were American children, raised by Hollywood, Disney, MTV, and Nintendo, while our parents were busy working. We were sheltered from the realities of a world in turmoil, and yet something was planted deep in our subconscious, that Arabs, Muslims, Middle Easterners hijacked things, blew up things, and killed people. They were clearly the bad guys, and we were supposed to hate them. All Americans did. It was the right thing to do. At least that's what we were taught. Things began to get worse in the 90s. The first bombing of the World Trade Center by al-Qaeda terrorists, the evils of Saddam Hussein in Iraq, increasing tension in the Gulf, all began to get our attention, to shake us out of our sheltered existence. A lot of people were dying, and we started to feel that the world was getting a bit frightening. We began to wonder sometimes if the horror really could touch us. When the Gulf War and Operation Desert Storm started in earnest, we suddenly experienced a surge of patriotism. Our boys were going over there to take on the evil Arabs once and for all, to kick ass and take names and teach that sinister, wicked Saddam a lesson he would never forget. Many in the Arab world and many of our troops would not survive. But we didn't think about that. We just tied yellow ribbons everywhere, and we supported the troops as hard as we could. If we were winning, we felt safe. The bad guys wouldn't be coming over here to get us anytime soon. We were still children then, absorbing and imitating the feelings around us, riding on a strange wave of patriotism and national glory, never really noticing the fear and questioning in our parents' eyes as they watched the news reports. We thought the U.S. won with the end of Operation Desert Storm. We thought we were safe from terror once and for all, but we were all very wrong. On September 11, 2001, terrorists used airplanes to attack the United States on her own soil. Scores were killed and the entire nation was thrown into a state of shock and horror that she has never really gotten over. Pre-9/11 and post-9/11 America are two entirely different worlds. We haven't really felt safe since. We may not feel safe ever again. The war on terror, we are told, may not ever end. Internal threat levels are on permanent red. The media, the government have put this in us, just like they put the urge in us to hate and distrust Arabs, Muslims, Middle Easterners, even more so after 9/11. Our identity has been sold to us through the media, and we have had no choice but to buy it or get left behind, be labeled outsiders. We have been taught they hate us, they want to destroy us, they will not cease until we are wiped out, so everything we do to them must be justified. Guantanamo, Abu Ghraib, torture and terror of our own design. We must do everything we can to stay safe, to keep this great nation safe, even if it means sacrificing our own freedom and everyone else's. How many civilians have been caught in the crossfire so far, Arab or otherwise? How many more are we financed and approved to kill in the future? Untold scores. vast numbers. And what are the realities of the Arab world? What is the truth about Islam? Why are these things forever and inextricably linked to terror in the American mind? What is the real story of U.S. involvement overseas? What have we really done to them? What have they really done to us? And what are we really doing over there? These are not questions we are supposed to ask, but we must start asking. These are not topics ever taught to us, but we must learn. If we want to know, we must find out for ourselves, and many of us are starting to. Many of us are glad we resisted the urge to hate, to join the military after 9/11, to kill Arabs, to become ignorant and prejudiced like the mainstream mass pop culture expected us to do. As we mature and learn to think for ourselves, to investigate and discern and think outside the limitations of our youth, we have found that things are not at all what they seem to be. Our generation is beginning to wake up and realize that America is not always as great as we thought. She has committed many atrocities against the world and her own citizens in the frenzy to protect herself from the enemy she has created for herself. Too many to detail here. Now, as the war on terror continues to rage and transform into a war on Muslims in general, the neo-Nazis, racists, white nationalists, xenophobes, bigots, deplorables, etc. begin to rise in power, driven by their hatred, fear, and distrust of Muslims, Arabs, foreigners, immigrants, everyone who isn't like them. We must ask ourselves why. We must examine the root causes. The way to do that is to look within, to remember all we have seen and experienced together since our youth. We must see through the lie that has been sold to us. We ultimately have to examine our own conscience and decide if we will pursue the truth, peace, and understanding, or if we will continue to pursue vengeance, hatred, Islamophobia, and constant warfare. It's up to all of us to decide what kind of world we want to live in and build it together.